All right, guys, welcome back to Back on the Grid podcast. We're going to change the name. It's decided. We're changing the name next episode. We'll figure it out. But thank you guys for tuning in. Like and subscribe. We are back. Luke, Arjun, Kami, Audie. Super excited to have you guys along to talk Formula One, new season. Last year, we kind of jumped in mid-season, had a lot of fun, but I feel like now we have a full runway, full season. So let's just get right into it. Bahrain preseason testing last week. Arjun, the main headlines, there were, a couple interesting headlines, but main headline, Red Bull, fast as ever. Is it all wrapped up? Is the Constructors and Drivers' Championship going to Red Bull and Max Verstappen on a bow with a Christmas present under the tree already?
I think this is an interesting question because clearly the Red Bull is just so much faster than all of the other cars. The concept that we put out in 2022 has clearly proven itself despite the development war with Ferrari and Mercedes. But I think this year it really comes down to the performance of the second drivers and of the team as a whole. As we saw last year with Carlos and Charles, clearly with an inferior car, they were still able to make up ground just with how much better they qualified than Sergio Perez. So this year, I think it's really up to whether Max is going to keep being the amazing driver that he is, but whether Checo Perez can really consistently put in those podiums in order to wrap up the constructors early. But I'm not going to count out Ferrari and Mercedes this year. I think under new management with Ferrari, as hopefully we'll get to later, things are going to be shaken up a bit, and maybe they'll have that championship DNA once again.
Yeah. Kami, if we go to you, I think, the two teams under Red Bull are Ferrari and Mercedes. Do you see one of them maybe having the advantage over the other or maybe potentially pushing Red Bull, or do you just see Red Bull the whole way number one?
Yeah, no, I think it'll be close at times, specifically from Mercedes, actually. We know Ferrari's car was fast last year, but their Italian strategy just let them down. But Mercedes has been doing well. I really believe in George as a driver. I don't know about Lewis, but I think George could pose some issues for the Red Bulls. And the car looks a lot faster this year, so Toto will come up with something. I'm sure of it.
For sure. I think we see Mercedes gets better as the season goes along with upgrades. So they did have a couple problems in preseason testing, but I think we can count on them to get better as the season goes along. Audie, let's kind of move back. Let's go backwards in the grid. All right. Let's get in the weeds here. And let's look at the team, a team that people are just peeing on. They're just pissing all over McLaren. Not your favorite team, but they have your favorite driver. What are your thoughts on McLaren at the moment right now?
Oh no, they are my favorite team as well.
Oh, they are. My bad.
Yeah, unfortunate news. I don't really know what the deal is. All I can see is that I remember seeing a statistic last week that McLaren was the slowest car throughout testing. So to be seen what they've done, let's just hope we can beat out Williams and Haas. That's the situation right now. I guess more is to be seen after the first race. See if Lando can work some magic with whatever he's got. But doesn't look too optimistic, at least from that small sample size we have. So again, still going to be a little bit optimistic, but doesn't look too great right now.
For sure. I think if we stay with you, Audie, for a moment here,
Sure.
You have McLaren, right? You have an elite, I would say an elite driver lineup. You see Lando's putting in good performances with the car last year with a bad car. Yeah, go ahead.
That was another thing that thank you for bringing that up. I want to see Oscar this year. I don't know what that's going to look like. Obviously, you can only have so much expectation given that he's a rookie and he did have that year off last year between racing in F2 and this year. But at the same time, he's getting his first seat in McLaren, which is, generally a competitive car. So that doesn't mean you can come and slack off. So we'll see, but he does have some incredible pedigree with that. I guess it's just him and Leclerc and Russell, who are the three guys who have won F2 and F3 in consecutive years. So you know that there you can't sort of understate that. So I'm very, very interested to see how he pans out in the debut this weekend.
For sure. I think they're both super young and they're both
Hmm.
very talented. So if they have a car, they could like dominate for years to come. But speaking of rookies, Kami, we get our first American, Logan Sargent, in a Williams car. Rather unfortunate. He's in a Williams. It's kind of like being in a McLaren, I guess, which is a little frightening to say. But what does it mean to have like an American on an F1 grid for the first time since 2015? It's been 8 years since an American's been on the F1 grid. What does that do for we do have two F1 races in America, but we've never had a driver. Does it kind of get the whole
Three
races now? Las Vegas.
Vegas.
I forgot about Las Vegas. What does it kind of do to USA to have a driver? Do you think, the country will get behind it or just maybe bring more eyes to the sport?
No, I think it's a big step given how much F1 has really like thrived in the US the past couple of years. We know it's a European like born and sort of like grown sport, but this Netflix documentary that's come out over the last 4 or 5 seasons has really brought a lot of attention to it in the US, and we see a real market for F1. I was just watching like the Drive to Survive episode of the Miami GP and how big of a spectacle it was and how much money, and like people were comparing it to like the Super Bowl, which is the biggest like sporting event in the country. So I think Logan joining the grid will only add to that. And more Americans will tune in, they'll support, they'll be patriotic as usual. And yeah, I think it's really good for the sport. F1's going to make a lot of money from it. And yeah, we have 3 American races to look forward to. Hopefully we can go to one of them.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of, Drive to Survive, Arjun, you touched on it a little bit earlier. One of the big personalities there was Benuti. I don't know how to say his name, but Ferrari's team manager retires, gets replaced by the Alfa Romeo team manager. I'm not even going to try to say Fred's name. We'll just call him Fred because his name's Fred. But he gets replaced, like our Kami actually mentioned. Ferrari kind of just shafted Leclerc pretty much last year. They just, I want to say 4 times he was in the lead and was retired, which is just an insane stat to think about. That's like 100 points, which is just insane. But what will that do for Ferrari? Do you think they get better or do they get worse under a new team manager?
So I think it'll be a bit of a learning curve for Fred Vasseur. I mean, obviously he comes from Alfa Romeo, which is a team that historically has not had many resources, but is sometimes capable of extracting everything from the car. And we saw last year that, despite the season going on and them improving their development, they still had very unsatisfactory results with Zhou Guanyu and Valtteri Bottas. So I think this year it'll take some time for him to get up to speed with a team like Ferrari, which has such like insane politics surrounding the drivers. So I don't think that it'll be like a 1 season switch. I still think that Ferrari will probably fall behind a team like Mercedes, which is an incredibly well-oiled machine at this point. So I think we can expect to see them second or third, unless they have some crazy fast car that the engineers have cooked up, because I don't know if the management alone is competent to bring them the championship.
Interesting. Audie, if you had to rank the top 3, is that how you would have it? Red Bull, Mercedes, Ferrari?
That's correct. Yeah, that's what I think Arjun's point was really valid. I think to win the championship, right, it's crucial that you have sort of the trifecta of the drivers, the team, and the car. And the team being the management, as Arjun said. And you need to have that support because, we saw Ferrari last year, right? I think they had 2 out of 3 for sure. And it was the management that sort of fell short. And for new stuff, you can't, I mean, it could click. As Arjun said, there's always that possibility. But odds are maybe that management still won't be ready to take on what it requires or endures to win a championship, whether it be the drivers or constructors.
For sure. I think if those are our top 3, then we have to fill out the midfield, right, Kami? Do we go to Alpine, Aston Martin, Haas, McLaren in that mix? Who do you go through for those 4 and 5 spots? Is it Alpine and Aston Martin?
Yeah, I think it has to be. Alpine had a really strong season last year. I think they came fourth in the
Yeah,
constructors above
fourth.
McLaren. But also Aston Martin. We saw Fernando Alonso putting in some crazy lap times in testing. And we just know he's a crazy driver. The man doesn't age. So I think those two will be battling it out. Past that, I'm not sure. I would have expected McLaren, but I guess it's not looking too good.
Yeah. Speaking of the preseason testing, Kami makes a really good point here, right? I would say Aston Martin's kind of like the wild card of the grid. Just coming out of preseason testing, they rate very highly. They just showed their speed basically in preseason testing, right? Lance Stroll was out, so Felipe Drogovic is the reserve driver. Kind of dumb injury by Lance, I guess. Just hurt his wrist in a biking accident, but it's classic Lance, right? I just feel like,
Stationary
that's
bike.
the rumor. That's the rumor. It's the dumbest thing ever. But I feel like if you have a fast car, you have Fernando Alonso, you have Lance Stroll, who's proven he's somewhat competent. I mean, he's not amazing, but he's not like Latifi or anything. You're able to put some kind of points on the board. Arjun, do you think Aston Martin wins the midfield? They're in the top 3. They fade. What's kind of the beat on Aston Martin?
I think Aston Martin's going to be pretty competitive in the midfield this year. They have a big propensity for like copying cars. So in 2019, they copied the Mercedes and then they won the midfield. I think they're going to do the same with the Red Bull this year. They're going to just copy the Red Bull from last year. And obviously, with the experience of someone like Fernando Alonso, you're really going to see the team heading in an upward direction. And it seems like, with their team principal, with the rather unfortunate name, Mike Crack, he is doing a great job leading the team, actually, surprisingly. And the management has been pretty fluid and communicative with the drivers. So I think we're going to see some pretty good things because Lance is also a very talented driver who gets a bad rap on the grid, but he's an amazing qualifier. His race pace is not great, but if the Astons are able to keep up quality laps like what we saw in testing, then they could easily be like fourth or fifth, right after the front running cars.
For sure. I think, as we go down the grid a little bit, we get to, Haas. Obviously a fun team to always speculate on. You get a new driver pairing, you get Nico Hulkenberg and you get Kevin Magnussen. The great clip. I just can't stop watching that clip where they're just like 2017, where he's just like suck my huevos, or like, you can find the clip or whatever. I don't want to say it, but looks like it's all behind them now. Haas kind of start off seasons fast and then just fade slowly as they don't make improvements. Kami, is that what we can kind of expect from Haas? They're just going to kind of be on the back of the grid,
Yeah, I think it's more of the same. I think Nico Hulkenberg coming back to the grid is interesting. Because he was like one of the, I think people called him like the best driver to never get a podium or something, or to never win a race. So there was a lot of hype around him. So I'll interested to see what he does. We saw Magnussen come out of retirement and actually have a pretty solid season last year. So yeah, a couple veterans at Haas. It'll be good.
For sure. All right, Adi, as we kind of wrap up a little preseason, who are you most excited to see in like a new car? So, for example,
Gasly.
Gasly.
I
All
want
right.
to outside of Piastri and the McLaren, of course. Maybe this one will probably be the biggest jump because he did some pretty crazy things in terms of outperforming his car at AlphaTauri, and now he will have a pretty good car. I think at least the signs we're getting from testing. Now, it will be interesting, right? Because he did have a seat in a Red Bull at one point in time, and that didn't go so well. At least according to the documentary, which is my extent of knowledge. It seemed that maybe some of the issue was pressure, but maybe, at least from clips I've seen in this newest season of Drive to Survive, he does seem more comfortable with it. Maybe it's because it's like a French thing. Maybe it's more his environment. I don't know. but hopefully he has a better fit at Alpine, and he's able to thrive and sort of um let his full potential show.
For sure. I think another thing that's interesting, love Gasly, don't want to, touch on him too much. Stud, favorite driver. I think he's getting replaced by Nick DeVries on the grid, which could be very interesting at AlphaTauri. Arjun, are you more excited to see Yuki Tsunoda in his third season at AlphaTauri or Nick DeVries just kind of debut rookie season? Nick DeVries is actually like 3 years older than Yuki, which is kind of weird, but he is the rookie. So who are you more excited to see there at AlphaTauri?
I think Nick DeVries, absolutely. Even in testing, they showed some clip of where he was giving feedback to his engineers about the car, and he was like spot on with what he wanted to improve. So I think he's going to be a huge asset to AlphaTauri this year as they try to improve their car and get out of that bottom midfield position. And Yuki is frankly just an abrasive personality on the grid. He had like a great romance with Pierre last year, but he's just in the car. He's a bit immature. He yells at the engineers a lot. He doesn't have the raw pace, and sometimes he chokes when it matters. He's not able to put it together in quali. So I don't think that he has that much of a future on this F1 grid. That may be a bit of a hot take, but I think De Vries, with how much time he spent proving himself, winning Formula 2, winning Formula E, and finally getting his chance now, I think he's going to bring some of that veteran experience that the grid needs, and that especially AlphaTauri needs. They need some stability going forward.
Interesting. I mean, he seems fast, and like I said, we've all seen like the engineer clip. Definitely seems like he's in the lab per se, always working hard, but he just seems kind of annoying personally. I love the Gasly Tsunoda bromance, so I don't like to see that replaced by Nick DeVries. He very openly about wanting to beat Tsunoda. Let's kind of move into the first season. Crazy that the race weekend starts tomorrow with practice. Kami, who do you think, if we just jump right into it, who do you think is going to win Bahrain? I feel like an easy choice, Max Verstappen, but do you have any sleepers, or do you think, just Max is going to run away with this one?
I do think Max is gonna win, but I could see Ferrari picking a sneaky win out of somewhere. It's something like the last couple of years, whoever's won the first race actually hasn't ended up winning the championship. So I kind of don't want Max to win, but yeah, the way they were
Wait,
looking.
you're a Max fan?
Oh yeah, big time. We'll see. I think he's got
Look
it
at
on
these
lock.
people, Audie.
I know.
How can we live with them?
I don't know, man.
I mean, yeah, very famously, Ferrari went 1-2, right, last year, and then they just kind of stunk. Yeah, I feel like you have to pick Max, but Audie, do you think there's any like big surprises like we saw Kevin Magnussen 5th place, Ferrari 1-2, Red Bull's kind of like nowhere to be seen. McLaren has like a shocking testing, and then they're just still able to like put points on the board. Like, do you have any you think any surprises here, or maybe it's just kind of return to form, Red Bull goes 1-2?
I had to pick something surprising, and I don't even know if it's all that surprising given what happened in testing. It just seems off coming out of your mouth. But maybe an Aston Martin on the podium would
Yeah, just because the car looks pretty.
It's not the most far-fetched, or it could be, I don't know, it's hard to tell. Again, small sample size, right? Testing. Like, as an anecdote, McLaren looked like they were like the stuff last year in testing and proceeded to be horrendous 2 weeks later. So I wouldn't read into it too much, and that's where I guess there's some risk or some uncertainty in my call. But
it would have to be Fernando, right? When you say an Aston Martin.
Yeah, I would
Okay,
think Fernando.
Just to be clear, you're not putting Lance on the podium or anything.
No, not so fast.
Okay, good. Arjun, give me a podium. Give me a top 3 and then a bottom 3. All right, I need bottom 3 drives, top 3 drives. Like, who's the podium? Who's finishing in last?
Very last, let's see. It's gonna be Hülkenberg.
Yeah.
Then this is tough. I'm gonna say Hulkenberg, Tsunoda, who's gonna DNF on the third lap, and then I'm gonna say Logan Sargent. As
Yeah, you
well.
have to throw Williams in there, right?
Yeah, it's a Williams, and he's new. He's green. He's gonna take some time. As for
Mhm.
top three, it's gonna be the same old story. Max is gonna win by 25 seconds. Charles is gonna again screw up the pit stop like first or second time, so he's gonna end up second place.
Don't doubt this new strategist. I'm intrigued by this new
I'm
strategist.
hopeful if they can. Yeah,
Was
they have
reading an article about him. Seems like he's just about as well studied as they come. Let's see if that translates to on track.
I hope
A
so.
new Ferrari strategist, Audie?
And yeah, his Indian guy graduated with a dual math and physics degree from Oxford. So
Shoot.
again, as I said, that's just about as smart as they come. We'll see if that translates.
Yeah, it's like
Interesting.
and like any other field, like an Indian guy with a math degree, like he's gonna do that. So I think he's gonna, yeah. So with that information, I think I'd put Ferraris at 2 and 3. I'd put Charles and Carlos at 2 and 3. So it'll be interesting this year. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm super excited to see it go down. I do think you have to put Max there, right? Like you just can't like it's just so unsatisfying. The car looks so good and like he looks so good all the time. I do think, like Lando could be sneaky, like he just always is in the top 10. Like it just happens.
7, like
Yeah, like
that
like,
mediocre 7. Yeah,
there's some stat out there, but like he has the best percentage of being in the points, like of
yeah, he
any
does it.
drive. Like
It's. I think it's quality. I think he's missed points like once or twice in quality,
yeah,
or not points, but top 10s.
yeah, for sure. Speaking of Lando, in the Drive to Survive, he just looks like in the new season, he looks so
Yeah.
different. Like maybe it's the haircut, but he just looks kind of like a douche. Like was it just me or were you guys also seeing that? Like the first clip is him with his girlfriend and he's just like he's like, I have a girlfriend. And you're like,
They-
all right, dog.
No. They did him dirty there. They like broke up midway through like the year. And
They
put
did.
and Netflix puts that as like the first friggin' scene of the show.
That's
I thought
hilarious.
a little questionable,
Yeah,
but
they did do him dirty.
yeah, he it gave him a little boost of confidence.
Yeah. They also got Max back, right? Like he said he
Yeah.
wasn't coming back, but then he came back. Like it was no big deal. Interesting. Speaking of when Arjun just mentioned Logan Sargent, this was also like a little bit of the it just wasn't talked about in Drive to Survive, but Alex Albon, like he just kind of drove well in the Williams last year, wasn't able to do too much with it. Kami will just kind of run to you a little bit. Like it's a Williams. Is there any future for Albon? Like he drove well with Arjun's Red Bull to some extent, did better than Gasly. Breaks my heart. They shouldn't have replaced him, but he did do better than Gasly. Do you think he does anything this year or,
I don't know how much he can do. I think he'll just put in solid races, time in and time out, like last year. But I don't know. I don't see a promotion anytime in the near future for him. Like,
yeah.
in order to get that Mercedes seat, like George had to put in some crazy races. So maybe when Lewis retires, hopefully that's soon. But
No. There are other people in line for when Lewis retires.
who's next?
Yeah, who would be in line?
I don't know, because it's like but all right, you're Mercedes, right? You're Toto. Yep.
But wouldn't Williams be the field to like prove them?
It's not necessarily. It's like it's not a total Alpha Tauri Red Bull situation. Like
okay, let's get back into the mindset, Schmoop. You're Toto.
You're Toto.
Yes.
You can probably get anybody on the grid who's not inside like the Red Bull little organization over there.
Yeah.
Like I've seen so much stuff.
Okay, wait, time out. Sorry, I have to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Could Toto get, like, this is hypothetical. We're living in the land of who cares. Could he get Yuki, or is like Yuki under Red Bull contract?
He's under.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like he's under Red Bull, but like think about all the stuff that they did for Albon to get to Williams. They also had to pull some strings to like get Albon out of his Red Bull contract to get into like a Mercedes slash Williams seat. They did some behind the scenes stuff there. So I think it's possible. Again, Toto would never look at Yuki.
Yeah. I'm just saying,
um,
like, they can take a Red Bull reserve, like junior driver, right?
they could. I guess
Okay.
like they'd work it out. Their substitute is Mick. That's interesting. I don't think they'd give him. I don't think they'd give him a Mercedes seat. He hasn't done much to prove that. I've been seeing some interesting stuff about Lando coming out of this year, taking Checo's seat at Red Bull. I don't really know. That would be intriguing, right? Because that gets him a good car, but it doesn't like we've seen. I mean, we have a perfect case of this in Danny Rick that moving from car to car doesn't necessarily work all the time, right? Like Lando, pretty much since he
In
came
this
to
case, Lando would go to the better car, though,
he
unlike Danny.
he would go to the better car, but cars are very different. McLaren, like basically since Lando came to F1, he has been on the team all about him. Like he has been the guy at McLaren basically since he came in there. To some extent, I don't know how much teams do this, how much they don't, but like the McLaren car fits his driving style. So going to Red Bull, that's not his team, that's Max's team. He'll sort of be cast in the shadow, but at least he'll have a good car. And I don't know, like we've seen examples of Lando. I don't know if he's like the guy to play teammate like Checo does. So that would be like a new interesting dynamic. But I know him and Max are like really close friends off the track. So
that would be a dirty driver lineup.
That would be
filthy, actually.
That would be ridiculous.
But that would definitely just like be the most insane. Like they'd both be going for world championship, no doubt. It'd be like what was Mercedes? Lewis and Nico?
Nico.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Horner still seems like he's got something for for Max, so I don't know how that would work.
Speaking of Mick, I was actually thinking about this, or maybe it was someone else, but I was thinking like when you think about prominent like youngsters in Formula One, like who have prominent fathers, like who's the better driver, Mick or Lance Stroll, Kami? Like who's one's dominated the sport, the other one's just like a billionaire who owns a company, but like they still have prominent dads. Like who's like the better driver, Mick or Lance?
I think Mick is the better driver. He won F2 and I actually think he won F3 as well.
Yeah, he won both.
Yeah, so he had a lot of hype coming in. I don't think he just got the seat because of who his dad is, whereas I think Lance, the only reason he has that seat is because of like his dad's involvement in the team. Yeah, I don't think Mick got enough of a chance at Haas, to be honest. I think that ruins his career.
I would disagree with Kami here a little bit about Lance. I don't know. I think a few years ago, especially in 2020, we saw him have some pretty crazy breakout performances. One was 2020, I think the Turkish Grand Prix in the wet, when it was like a super slippery track, everyone was slipping off. Lewis naturally crashes, right? And Lance puts up a P3 performance in
P3 P3 in like a Williams too. He podiumed in a Williams.
Exactly. It was insane. And I think he joined the grid when he was 18, and he's always been a pretty spectacular qualifier if given the right car. So, but in terms of race pace, he never really puts it together. So I think he has talent and raw promise a bit more than Mick has. But I think Kami's right about Mick having that potential of, coming from F3 and F2 and, just needing time to develop on the grid. So ultimately, Stroll just has more money, right? So he's just going to survive the next few years, and we'll see where Aston Martin goes.
Interesting. All right. So, I mean, I feel like I just feel like Mick was just bad last year. Like he just,
he
wasn't good.
Every time he had to push it, he put the car on the wall.
Yeah. Especially when you're getting out qualified by your teammate, just constantly, like, Magnussen was just out qualifying
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Not to say Lance wasn't getting out qualified by Vettel, but like,
Yeah.
I
Fair
just feel
point.
like, I would go Lance personally. I do think Mick is like, cooler. I think Mick deserves another shot, but there are only so many grids or so many spots on the grid. Audie, if we run to you, as we're wrapping up here a little bit, we kind of got Max locked in at the top. We kind of have a top three set with Ferrari, Mercedes, Alpine, Aston Martin. Do we think any of the back end of the midfield, your McLarens, Haas, Williams, AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo? Do we think any? We haven't really talked about Alfa Romeo too much. I mean, they haven't really changed too much, right? Bottas, Jules, they're still there, so nothing to talk about there. But do we think any of the bottom five teams can move into the points? I think you always see a bottom five team move into the points just from DNFs, the way it works out. If you had to choose a bottom 10 driver to move into the points, who would it be besides McLaren? Because I feel like Lando and Piastri can move in there. So bottom four teams.
Bottom 10 driver.
Yeah.
So we're Haas,
Haas,
McLaren.
McLaren. Yeah, I mean,
Well,
you can't count Romeo. Like, I feel like Lando's in there. I would go Haas, Alfa Romeo,
okay.
AlphaTauri, Williams.
No one at AlphaTauri.
I mean,
Williams, possibly Albon. I mean, it depends on the car. The Williams didn't look great. The AlphaTauri didn't look great. The Haas was nothing special.
I feel like as rookie seasons go, is it Zhao wasn't bad. Like, I feel like he was a good rookie.
Yeah, I don't know. They were like something about Alfa Romeo. It's just so vanilla. I don't know.
Is it the white colors on their logo, Audie?
No, I think to answer your question, Luke, probably say mm, maybe Albon.
I like the Albon call. I feel like he's just slept on a little bit. He's not in season 5 at all, too, by the
No,
way,
no,
for
no.
Drive to
Yeah,
Survive. They just don't talk about him. He
I
does
mean
like dye his
he
hair
didn't
at one point though.
he didn't do much to be talked about, did he,
That is
last
fair.
year? Maybe he got
Yeah.
like into the points once or twice.
Yeah.
They skipped over some stuff on that one. They skipped over George's first win, Brazil.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
All right.
a different topic.
We run to Albon. Yeah. We could talk. Drive to Survive is definitely a different topic. All right. So let's finish this up. Season
Right.
long predictions. All right. We're gonna jump to Arjun first. Okay. I need who's winning the drivers' championship, who's winning constructors, who's like most improved, like most improved slash surprise. So like, your Lance Strolls, your Pierre Gasly's, Ocon or Albon. And then final biggest disappointment of the year. So 4 drivers championship, constructors, most improved slash sleeper, disappointment of the year. Arjun, we'll go to you first.
I mean, I think the driver's champion's pretty obvious. I'm not even gonna say it.
Yeah, I don't know why I asked you to go first, honestly, on that. But just get to the other 3.
Constructors is gonna be pretty close, I think, between Red Bull and Mercedes. Actually, no, it won't be close. I think Red Bull will still win by a handy margin. I think, and yeah, I mean, just because of the car, right? And what was the second to last question? Yeah, like a standout performer, probably going to be. Can I say Fernando Alonso? I know he has a lot of hype going in, but I think
you can.
the Aston Martin, it's a totally new deal. And I think with just his experience and what looks to be a rocket ship of a car, I think he can do great things, especially at like what 41 years old or something crazy like that, which is really
It's
impressive.
ridiculous.
That's insane. Yeah.
So
And then biggest disappointment.
biggest disappointment. Okay. This might be a hot take, but I think Piastri is going to be a bit of a disappointment. I don't know if he has a lot of hype coming in, but as we saw with Daniel Ricciardo, like the McLaren is just a really difficult car to drive. It seems like, especially coming from like the Alpine ecosystem and all those kinds of cars. I think the McLaren has a very quirky way of braking and entering corners, which might not suit Piastri. and he'll have this additional pressure built up by the hype surrounding him. So I think he's going to flop a little bit this season, especially when going up against a driver of Lando's caliber and being in that, crappy McLaren car, constantly getting like P15. So I think it's really interesting to see how Piastri does this year.
Interesting. Tommy, we'll run it over to you. Same 4 questions.
Max winning, Red Bull winning, standout performer, Nick DeVries, I think. And then worst performer, I also think Oscar Piastri.
Wow.
The Dutch are going to be dominant this year.
Wow. Interesting. Audie.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. This is no fun if it's Red Bull.
Thank you.
I'm gonna say probably drivers is probably gonna be Max. It would be realistic, but I'm gonna say Mercedes constructor.
Interesting. Why not Ferrari? Like, if you had to go contrarian, why are you picking Mercedes over Ferrari?
I don't trust them. I know
interesting.
that Mercedes can figure their stuff out. Like if they don't have a good car, they'll figure it out. I think they're a fine car. I just think I just probably have more faith in the driver pairing of Lewis and George than Sainz and Leclerc. What are the other ones? Standout performer.
Standout disappointment.
Standout, I'm gonna say Pierre Gasly. And disappointment.
Boy.
I think I'm gonna say I don't know if this is fair to say Lance as a disappointment, but I think with the hype that he's getting with the car, granted he has the car, I don't think he's going to perform on par with what he should be doing with the car that he has.
Interesting. I think wrap it up. You have okay, I want to say Charles Leclerc. I do. I like Charles. I'm not going to say it. I just want to put it out there that I want to say it. I think Max wins. I think I'm going to go Ferrari wins the constructors. I feel like in testing they did look better than Mercedes. Mercedes does get their car right like over the course of the season, but Ferrari looks like the second best team out there. So I'm going to go Max, Ferrari. Biggest or most improved / surprise. Swear I was going to say this before Arjun went. Not trying to be contrarian, but I was going to go Oscar Piastri. Honestly, I think he is going to be the best rookie we've seen. I think McLaren, the car's horrible, but it's not a Williams car. So I think we can establish that it's not a Williams car. So I think he's a rookie coming into one of the best cars that he's ever had. Even Max came into an AlphaTauri to start, which, wasn't that good. I think he's going to put in some of the best performances a rookie's had. And then biggest disappointment, I feel like if Nick DeVries gets 0 points, it's not a disappointment, so I can't say him. Even though I hate Nick DeVries. I'll probably go like Lewis, honestly. I don't want to fade Lewis. I like Lewis, but I would say I just don't know if Lewis has it anymore. I'm willing to be proven wrong though, because I don't want to get in a boat with Arjun on this Lewis hate. I don't want to. I know he's gonna say something, but we have to wrap it up. So we're gonna save it for the next episode. If you want to hear more Lewis slander, be sure to tune in. If you want to tune in after the Bahrain and see Audi just get absolutely destroyed because McLaren sucks, make sure to tune in, subscribe, guys. Thank you guys for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. Can't wait to do a post Bahrain podcast. Appreciate you.